Welcome to You Can Exhale Now, a mindful living podcast for the modern pace, hosted by Lesia Liu. This podcast is for anyone who wants to get more out of life without the burnout. Because when you learn to take proper care of yourself, you have more energy, a more positive outlook, and more gratitude for life. And because you cannot reach your goals if you're tired, overwhelmed, judgmental, angry, and feel sorry for yourself. Each episode, you will learn actionable strategies for self-care, mental health, productivity, better life-work balance, and happiness from coaches, therapists, and experts. Stop holding your breath. You can exhale now. Choose to be a more authentic version of yourself than you've been in a while. Hello, guys. Today, I wanted to share a little bit of a story about me and how this podcast came to fruition. So, as you may already know, my name is Lesia. And there are quite a few reasons for why I started this podcast. Just so it happens, for the last few years, I've worked for a neuroscience company, and it wasn't really where I saw myself going on purpose, but so it happened, and I got absolutely fascinated with neuroscience. The brain function is just really incredible thing, and it is even more interesting that we only now get to understand it a little bit better. And what we know about the brain so far is magnificent and also makes up probably like 5 to 10% of everything we do not yet know. And for decades, physical health and mental health were treated like these two completely separate entities. But with these new discoveries in neuroscience and psychology and psychiatry, we get to understand the physical causes for mental health decline. And the second reason for why I started this podcast is it also so happened that I had an anxiety, and I've had it for a few years, but I was so oblivious to what it was and why and what to do. And I didn't understand the causes or the symptoms. I just thought that maybe there is something wrong with me or maybe it will go away on its own, but it didn't. And it wasn't until a few years later that this understanding that I am experiencing anxiety really helped me. And honestly, just understanding it was so helpful because now you have a name for what's going on with you. And because as you uncover reasons and triggers, not only can you try and avoid them and pivot or work around them, but you also become better at handling triggers and addressing the underlying causes, the underlying thought patterns, or unprocessed trauma. And you have to be very careful here, though, not to label yourself as a depression or anxiety. But once you know what it's called, you can, first of all, build a plan on how to overcome it. And second, I think it just helps you understand that what you're going through has nothing to do with you. You're not different. You're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. And while we all prefer to think that we are all so unique and that our struggle is really unique, we are really just going through human experiences. And as I meet and talk with different people, one thing becomes more and more clear to me, and that is that we are all overwhelmed, even if just a little bit, and that no one does enough self care. We all feel like we should do more, achieve more, be more fit, be more positive, and yet, somewhere in the middle of it all, we struggle. We struggle with overwhelm that can show itself as laziness, as procrastination, as emotional eating or binge drinking, or being unreliable friend and canceling your plans at the last second, maybe changing jobs every 6 months. I mean, the list goes on and on. But we usually do not speak up and tell our boss or our friends or even family members that we feel overwhelmed because of the risk of looking weak and not being considered for that next promotion or friends turning their backs on us, etc. And this is another reason I started this podcast is because I'd like to help to end stigma around mental health. Because, newsflash, it turns out that mental health is part of your overall well being and health. You wouldn't judge a friend if he or she broke their arm, but you may feel uncomfortable around topics of depression or anxiety, and it might necessarily be the fact that you're judging them, although that might play into it as well. But it's probably because you don't know how to handle it and you don't know what to do for a friend who found themselves depressed or anxious. And it is also one of the primary reasons people do not get the help they need. They don't want to be labeled anything and they don't want anyone to know. And things like therapy or medications may look, as kind of your last resort, as your worst case scenario type of thing. And you may even think that therapy or medication is for nutcases. And you're not in that case, right? So you're just feeling a little bit down for the last few years, maybe. And do you see how ridiculous it sounds? And I'm not saying that you may necessarily need those things like therapy or medication, but my hope with this podcast is that you will be able to start taking proper care of yourself before you ever need therapy or medication. This is one of the biggest reasons I found myself going through anxiety is because I did not pay attention to red flags and I didn't know what to do with them and how to properly handle or process those things. And like I already mentioned, is I found that no one does enough self-care. And there goes another judgment that self-care is only for when you have time. Self-care is extra. Self-care is for the rich. Self-care is for the spoiled and selfish people. And again, we can continue on this list for hours on straight. But really, it's not for me. And I hope that you can agree with me, is that self-care is the foundation of your life. How you feel affects your mindset, your thoughts, your actions, your relationships, what you achieve in your life, and how much you think you deserve. It affects everything, including your very real physical health. So now that we've established that self-care is essential, what exactly is self-care? Self-care looks different for all of us, and you have to find what brings you the most results. But at its core, it is any activity that improves your body and your mind. For some people, self-care may look like a bubble bath. For others, like a hike out in the nature. For others, it may be an art class. There's really no wrong way to do self-care. Like I said, your self-care routine will be whatever brings you the most joy. And I will be bringing different guests onto my show that will share their findings and their tips with you on how to live your best life, from productivity coaches to mental health therapists to people with interesting experiences who'd like to share their discoveries. And my hope is that it will be digestible and actionable, and it will give you an appreciation for the complex system that is you, and get to know yourself better and what you need to up-level in your life, whether it is being more deliberate with your time, uncovering unprocessed trauma and addressing it, learning a few relaxation techniques, maybe bringing in more joy and grace into your life, or just being more mindful of the natural flow of your body. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've learned a lot of new strategies. Be sure to check out the notes below this episode for additional resources and tools mentioned in today's show. I would love to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts and takeaways with me on social media channels wherever you are. And do not forget to tag me. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next episode. If this podcast has helped you even a little bit, please leave a review and subscribe so that we can help spread the message together.